Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make a pair of smart doll shorts. So I've had this request a few times now, so here is the way that I made these shorts. I started out by modifying the basic pattern from Danny Choo's website. So I just shortened this roughly where I thought they would be, and all the other pieces will remain the same. And of course I still kept the pockets because what are jean shorts without pockets? So I did try to lay out these pieces as good as possible where I had the least amount of fabric waste because, I don't want to waste fabric. And one of those belt waistband things, I probably should have done that in the lining fabric, but I completely forgot about that and just got really into it. Okay, so these are the pattern pieces that we'll be using for the front and the back. And I'm going to be starting with the back, so put the pocket aside for now. We're going to be starting with the yoke. So I'm just lining it up, making sure it is on the right side, the center back facing the center back, and pinning that together. Just take your time, make sure it's lined up. You may need to do a slight bit of stretching because it is curved. It shouldn't be stretched, but you may have to do a little bit of moving around. It comes in handy if you're using fabric that has a bit of stretch in it, if you're doing this. But yeah, so we're just going to be sewing that. And this is what it should be looking like. So once you've got this, just give it a good iron and make sure your seam is pressed upwards. It's just gonna lay a little bit nicer. But yeah, give it a good press with the ironing and you can do some top stitching while you're at it. And as you can see, that is what I did. And now I'm gonna continue with the back pockets. So I'm gonna go ahead and overlock those, all the edges, and I'm going to be folding the edges in. So the first step is to fold the top edge down, or in, whatever you want to say, and top stitching that in place. And then we're going to be going in and folding all the edges inwards and giving that a good press with the iron again. So yeah, that is basically what we did here. It's a bit finicky getting these small little corners to fold in. Use as many pins as needed while you're using the ironing, but eventually I got it there, and just place a heavy book on it or something just to make sure it stays in place. And now you just want to find your location where you want to place the back pockets and sew that all the way around the 4 edges, leaving the top edge open. And ta-da! Looking really nicely there, like a good official pocket that actually works. So I'm really happy. This gets me excited when it's nice and smooth. So now we're going to continue with the pockets, the front pockets. So I've got the lining here that I'm just basting the edges on. As you can see, it's just a narrow hem. I've left that corner open because it doesn't matter. So just around the curve is what I sewed. Now grabbing the front pocket pieces, so the shortened from the full length, these are the shortened ones. They look a little bit weird, but it's fine. So yeah, grabbing these, I'm just going to be lining it up. So the way that I do this to make sure that I attach it to the correct side correctly is I just line it up first how it should look when it is finished. So in this case, it is this pocket piece. This is what it should look like finished. So if I just lengthen that and now flip it over, this is how I need to sew it. So anytime I'm confused, I just line it up and realize this is what it should look like. So now I just need to flip it over to the other side. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead, pin that in place and do a narrow stitching around the edge there. And once I've done that, I'm going to clip a few little stitch in their inner curve. Make sure you do not cut through the stitches. Don't cut through the stitches, otherwise you get to do that all over again. But yeah, if you just cut a few clips, a few little things, that is just fine. This is honestly already too much, it doesn't matter. And now we can flip it inside out or right side out again. So I'm just gonna flip it and pin it as I go. Also, give this again a good press with the iron. I mean, why not? You've got the iron out anyway for this project. and it just makes sure it lays so much smoother. So definitely just go out and get that iron set up if you haven't already. And we're going to do that on both sides. So now you're just going to be doing a narrow top stitching along that edge there. Now that we're at this stage, we're just going to be folding the actual pocket inwards like this. And this is actually when we're creating the pocket. I am going to be doing a little bit of a stitch down the top there, just to make sure it stays in place while I do everything else. This is just making sure the pocket doesn't move, and make sure it's really narrow so it gets hidden by the waistband. Now I'm going to be turning this little white, like the lining piece, inside out to stitch it in place. So this just makes sure you have a really nice finished seam on the inside of the pocket bag. This is also how you would do this on a real life sewing, by the way, if you're curious. So we just get to turn that inside out, and this is what it will look like. Honestly, it looks really nice, so definitely do it like this. So up next, you can just pin that side and do like what we did on top, a really easy, simple, narrow hem down the side. And you just repeat this on both of the pockets. And now that we have both the front pieces and the back pieces, it's time to start connecting them. So the way that I like to do this is first, again, aligning them up before flipping them over on the respective pieces that they need to be at. Just remember, the sides need to go to back. So as long as you know what the center back is, it's the other side, is the side that you need to attach it to. The side that has the pockets. Does that still make sense? I'm sure it does, otherwise just wing it. Just wing it. No. So the side pocket goes to the side of the back jean, so the one that doesn't have the curve. And we're just going to be pinning this in place. Mine are a little bit uneven on the hem there, and that's because I just winged the length that I wanted it to be and just went with it. So I did trim that off with the scissors, just the extra bit, and of course we're going to be hemming that later anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. I think next time I will do it a little bit longer. Anyway, this is what we're looking like. I have top stitched that side seam on both pieces as well as overlocked the bottom, just so it's a little bit nicer to work with. So our next step is to do the inner crotch seam, like that little one there that you can see. So we're just going to line this up, and it is actually the curve that we're going to be sewing. So you just pin that in place, making sure it's nice and even on all the sides before placing the pins. So this is what I've gone ahead and overlocked the edges as well, because I like clean edges. Sometimes I don't, because I don't like to get the overlocker. But I like my clean edges, so I've got the overlocker out. And again, we're going to be top stitching this seam, just like we did on the side seams. Just make sure it's nice and narrow and go slowly. Alrighty, time for the belt loops. So we're gonna start by getting the pattern off, and this is actually a huge pain in the behind, so I don't know why I bothered. It doesn't matter for me anyway. Anyway, the belt loops, we're going to be folding them in 3. So I actually did this wrong first, so it's actually going to be folded in 3s. And now we're going to be top stitching both sides along each side and cutting off all the extra threads. So now that we've got that, I'm just going to be cutting them to size, just like you can see. I'm actually just referencing the pattern constantly and lining up the scissors. The reason I don't actually like the belt loops is because, especially with denim fabric, it is already really thick, and all these layers adding up, it's really thick, so your sewing machine needs to be pretty strong, and otherwise just go really slow and do it by hand. That's another option. It was fine, like the belt loops, but once you attach the waistband, it's just a bit thicker, and they don't actually fold as nicely as I'd like them to. But it's a really fun option if you have a belt and you want to showcase the belt. So yeah, up to you if you want to add them or not. But for these ones, I did decide to add them because they are denim shorts. How many times do I have to say that? Okay, sorry. Anyway, the waistband, we're just going to be sewing that little inner curve, leaving the bottom curve open. And we're just going to go ahead and clip into those corners. And we're actually also sewing down the sides. Don't forget to sew down the 2 short sides and then that inner curve. And after we've clipped those corners, we're going to clip into the inner curve just to make sure we can fold it over and make it lay as smooth as possible. So you can just make little clips or little triangles, whatever you like. I find making triangles too much effort, so sorry, now you know. And we're just going to be lining up the center there and making sure the little curves flip all the way around. It is a hassle, but it makes it look really nice and finished, so it's worth it. Again, you may have to do a little bit of stretching or more like fitting to make this actual fit, but it should be fine, especially like if your denim has a bit of stretch in it. Perfect. So once you've done that, it is sewn in place. I've gone ahead and overlocked that all together and blah blah. I'm going to be folding this waistband over, making sure again that little corner is hidden in there. So I do the corner by folding it towards the inside slightly, especially that little tag that is hanging out, making sure that is folded towards the inside so you don't see it on the outside. Whew, those were a lot of inside and outside. Oh well. And I'm just going to be pinning this in place, and the way that I like to do this is doing a stitch in the ditch method. So just making sure I stitch in that little groove that was left behind by the previous seam, because it's just the nicest looking finish in this case. You can also do a top stitching if that's what you want to do. I do also like to do a top stitching on this waistband, but that gets done once I've done the belt loops. So here you can see I'm going to be doing the top stitching and the belt loops. Oh hey, look, I've done the top stitching. Yeah, normally I like to do the top stitching after the belt loops. Anyway, the belt loops just get folded inwards and top stitch. This is where it comes in that it's a lot of fabric, a lot of layers. And don't forget to cut all your threads. So many threads, so just do it while you're going. And those belt loops just left a lot of threads. Anyway, this is what we're looking like. I am pretty happy with this. So now it's time to finish sewing the back and front together. Or, just the fronts together. So I'm going to be lining this up. Just that little curve is what we're going to be sewing next. As you can see, this is what it's looking like. And now you get to flip it. Make sure it's like this. It's like a skirt now. And you attach the 2 center pieces together. So this is actually going to create the leg holes. So really just follow what I'm doing. It's really hard to explain. And yeah, we're just going to be sewing that in place. As you can see, I have gone ahead and hemmed the shorts, and that's because it's easier to hem it before the leg holes are made. So yeah. As for this little detailing on the front, I did decide to hand stitch that because it's just getting really hard to do this by sewing machine. If you see my last video making the jeans, like from Danny Choo's pattern, I did this by sewing machine, and honestly, yeah, I don't know what I recommend more, but I think this was a bit easier, so it's up to you, but I think I'll stick with the hand sewing method, unless I'm too lazy, but I think I'll stick with this. So I first did one side, and then I ran back the other way. And time for the closure. Remember those layers that I mentioned a few times now? Because of the backing is also denim and not a lining, it is really thick. I struggled to get my closure in there. And struggled and struggled and struggled some more. And these are all the failed attempts, so yeah. But hey, we got there in the end. It works. I do need to be careful. I don't want to risk it coming undone, so remember your lining. But this is what it's looking like, and I'm really happy with it. She looks really beautiful and cute, and I love it with all the different kinds of tops and things. It's really summery, it's really cute, so perfect at this time of year. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, why don't you just like and subscribe? It really helps my channel out. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. And any ideas, also comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Bye!